Hey everyone, welcome back. And this is going to be a special edition video at the sort of, let's call it the capstone to our 10 video series around Jirav for practitioners. And so this is actually my favorite part because, when we started this journey 5, 6, maybe even 8 years ago, we were all providing, just like most of you, you're providing some sort of transactional advisory services, and over the course of that first 2 or 3 years, we started realizing hey, how the heck are we going to actually scale a business on the backs of a transactional, ad hoc, hourly type of service model? It's impossible.
It's one thing when you're doing it 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people that are kind of just CFOs, right? Individual hourly CFOs. It's much different when you're trying to scale a team, and that's what we kind of had to figure out.
Right. And so when we're thinking about developing, scaling an FP&A practice, many of you have experience with the tax, right? Tax has a very maybe more inherent cadence, tack time, seasonality. You know what your deadlines are. We're all working towards those deadlines. It's all hands on deck, pushing those tax returns through.
There's defined deliverables and defined expectations.
Exactly. And on the accounting side, accounting sort of has its own little cadence too, right? Because accounting, it happens to turn 12 times a year. It's short, it's discrete, you got to pay bills, you got to do invoicing, you collect money, you reconcile your books, right? There's a workflow to it. There's a cadence to it.
There's a cadence to it, and once again, with tax, there's defined expectations, deliverables, but also there's a defined team, right? Between the bookkeeping and the controllership, right? There's a defined team around that. There's not that for
until February comes along, and then the tax team pulls all the accounting people off of it. But with that said, you got to kind of think about building your FP&A team just like you built your accounting team. They have to be dedicated. And there are 3 things that, at least the way we look at it, is we think about it through the lens of cadence. That's the when. The rigor, that's the what you're going to produce, and the team. The team is the team that is actually dedicated to producing those deliverables when your customer needs it. Now, on the flip side, the biggest difference between FP&A and accounting and tax is your customers just don't know they need it. Everybody knows they need accounting. Everybody knows they need somebody to prepare taxes, because nobody really wants to prepare taxes, but nobody really values or sees the value or understands the value because it hasn't really been articulated. And so the way we think about it is we have grounded our FP&A and our CFO services around the annual strategic business cycle. Now, it's kind of a fancy way of saying, what are those things that are business strategies? What are those things that business owners really need to have developed and grounded and think through? It's not that hard. It's your annual operating plan. Otherwise, your budget. The next one is your long-range plan, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you can sprinkle on some employee comp conversations. Why? Because employee comp is technically tied to your budget. You can also think about liquidity, especially for those startups or those companies that have been around for 20 years and you're capital intensive and you're thinking about
capital raising
or
bank
capital expenditure, right? All of that stuff, Jirav can help you handle. The beauty with Jirav is that, unlike Excel, those dreaded version controls, formula problems, or just lack of understanding how Excel works and integrating it with your accounting and actuals to budget and those charts. I can go all day long around this, right?
You don't have to have an MBA in accounting in order to build out a quality model, right?
And nor do you want one.
Nor do you want one, right? That's not what we focused our team on.
Right. So when we're thinking about scaling an FP&A business, it's not just the cadence, the when, because a good workflow system and a good framework, an annual framework will help you with that. It's not just the rigor, because all your business owner customers, they need actuals to budget. They need help deciphering the variances and the whys and the capital needs. But the third piece to scaling your FP&A business comes down to the team. Remember, FP&A, finance, is very different than accounting. It's not about debits and credits. There's a lot of ambiguity.
A lot of ambiguity, and that doesn't, once again, I'm going to go back to, it doesn't have to come from accountants, finance degrees, right? You can really build an FP&A practice around any background if you've developed the deliverables, the cadence, and the rigor, right?
Yeah. Agreed. And so, Corey, let's talk a little bit about our experience and how when we brought on Jirav about 2.5 years ago, like everybody else, I was trying to do Jirav, Corey was doing Jirav, a few of our other team members were all trying to do Jirav, and we realized, Jirav is really different. Mm-hmm. And what we want is when we're bringing on new talent, 1, 2, 3 years out of college, it's just like in your accounting business. Find me a college grad that actually knows how to use QuickBooks. Online, desktop, it doesn't matter. Right? Xero, NetSuite. They don't teach that in school. So what's one of the first things you do on your CAS platform? You teach young college grads how to use QuickBooks. Sure. Yeah. Well, QuickBooks in this case. Yeah. It's the same thing you did, right? Yep. So Corey, talk to us a little bit about what we have done internally to mimic that same evolution in accounting.
Yeah, we found that Jirav is the perfect training ground for new analysts because for the first 2, 3, 6 months, they spend 100% of their time building models in Jirav for the end customer, right? What this does is 2 things. Gets them up to speed and integrated with the platform itself so that they know how to manage it, they know how to use it. But what it actually does also is it helps them to understand the foundation of financial statements, right?
Which is huge because I interview like 9 out of 10 accountants and finance professionals right out of college, and they have a hard time even like naming the 3 most important financial statements, right?
And it kind of sounds backwards from what I just said, where you don't have to have an accounting degree to become an FP&A analyst. But what I mean by that is it forces them to understand the financials from the aspect of the difference between an asset, liability, equity, right? You don't need to know how to build a deferred revenue schedule. You don't need those intricacies, but you need to know how to build a subscription-based business, right?
What I love, too, is you're not paying people to recreate the chart of accounts every single month when you're trying to do one of the most important things that come out of FP&A, which is your actuals to budget. And so Jirav actually, it may cost a little more to be on Jirav, but the beauty is I'm not spending countless hours in rework, looking for a needle in a haystack, essentially.
Trying to balance the balance sheet, spending 3 hours of,
right.
CFO's time to do
this. I mean, think about it in your business. Your customers are willing to spend $500, $1,000, even $2,500 for monthly accounting. What would they be willing to pay for a solid actuals to budget variance analysis on a monthly basis? We're not even talking like fancy budgeting, long-range planning, liquidity planning, like just something simple. Think about it. Jirav can help us with that. And on that note, this was great. I totally enjoyed, geeked out to this. And I hope everyone subscribes to our YouTube channel. And I'm sure you're going to find a lot more Jirav content coming out. Corey and the team are just continue to bang out more models here. So
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
That was great. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Leave us some feedback. Also, check out our website, growthlabfinancial.com. Again, subscribe so you can be notified for the next one.